I'm going to call to order the board meeting. If you guys want to stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I guess I will be reading the Elkhart Promise today. Every student is known by name, challenged, and supported by highly effective staff, and in partnership with the community will graduate career, college, and life ready. So after each agenda item and at the end of the meeting, you will have opportunity to speak or ask questions. Please fill out the form to speak at the end of the meeting. You'll have 3 minutes. Turn that form into Dora, and you'll have 3 minutes. After each agenda item, I'll ask for questions or comments from the audience. So first on the agenda is the consent items. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, so here are our donations. We have one from the Economic Development Corporation of Elkhart County that will be giving us 13 dozen pairs of safety glasses and 3 boxes of ear plugs that will go for safety training at the Career Center. We have $600 that will be given to the Elkhart High School boys tennis team from the Elkhart Athletic Club. We will receive $800 or have received $800 from Linda Homo that will go towards the Elkhart High School athletics for the timing officials for the cross country. We have a donation of $500 from Phyllis Tubbs that will grow our girls golf team. We have, this is a great one, they're all great, but $3,837.35 from Jason Opendorf of Medallion Plastics that will provide for our Permoran Middle School volleyball team, purchase of Under Armour court shoes, knee pads, travel bags, and shorts to grow that program. We have a donation of $1,000 from Simonton Sales that will go for the Elkhart High School girls soccer team. We have $900 that will go towards the volleyball team at Westside. These funds will help to grow and assist with the volleyball team there. We have $500 for school supplies that were donated by Elkhart Extrusion North American. Thank you, Norma, for that. And then $3,000 from NIBCO that will be used for any field trip or extracurricular activities, transportation, admission, or lunch for our students when they go on any kind of field trip. So once again, we were very blessed from our school system. And on that note, we talk about athletics. If there's anybody out there, we need officials so you can get trained. See our athletic department.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there any other discussion? Are there any comments or questions from the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda under new business, we have Dr. Staley to discuss the school calendar.
Yes, so one of the things that we discovered when we were looking at the school calendar was one of these e-learning days was after April, after we got back from vacation, and right during the I-Learn testing window. And so we're recommending that the board discuss or have questions about that e-learning day that we're asking to cancel and make a regular day of school as April 16th. So that is what we're asking for you to consider in the future for doing that. The other thing is, I would add that we've already started discussion with the PRG committee this year on the 2023, 2024, 25 school calendar. One of the difficult parts of that is the wide variation in terms of first semester and second semester, where there's almost 13 or 14 more days in second semester than first semester, which is not nice, but at the same time, there's a lot of testing during the second semester, which leads to a little bit less instruction during those periods. So there is a little bit of leveling out. The other thing that we are looking at is how many e-learning days there will be next year. And so we'll be anxious for the board's feelings about that as well as we discuss that with the PRG committee.
Does this come back at our next meeting for us to vote on, or can we just waive that if we don't necessarily need to discuss, like canceling out that, like what do we need to do with that?
You could go ahead and approve the.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Oh, so I'm gonna make a motion to go ahead and approve the change on the 2023-2024 calendar.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Is there any questions or comments from the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Doug Thorne.
Good evening. Tonight, the administration is proposing a revision to board policy 3320.01C. This is our teacher appreciation grant policy. This policy governs the procedure for the distribution of tag funds to teachers who have been rated effective or highly effective based upon their performance evaluations from the prior school year. Each year, the Department of Education alters the date by which the policy needs to be submitted to the state for approval. This year, the policy must be submitted to the IDOE for September 15th, so that the district can comply with that timeline. We are also asking that you waive second reading as to this policy. As you'll note, the only change in the policy from the policy as presented to you last year and to the state is the change in the submission date to the Indiana Department of Education.
Is there a motion?
So the motion, wait second
seconding?
reading. Yeah.
I just have a comment. If
Yes.
we got the second. So can we write the policy in such a way that it doesn't have to come back every year if we're just changing a date? Can there be language put in there that it, if we need to change it, it just seems to be,
As I was reading the guidance from the state today, I was thinking exactly the same point that you were making this evening, Mrs. Bonneville. It really does seem somewhat silly that we go through the process of revising the policy every year to satisfy the dictates of the state as to the date of submission. As you'll know, if you look at the draft, there's a one-day change in terms of the date of submission. So I'm thinking that perhaps we can make that change. I would suggest, rather than try to do that tonight, that we do that for.
right, going
So
forward.
I present that to you perhaps next August of 2024 with the change in place, so that we don't have to come back every year.
We'll do it
What
to
we've
state
done
statute,
really
Right,
for,
well, couldn't you just change the motion, like, couldn't we just put different?
I'd
procedure
rather,
now?
I'd rather be a little bit
Clean it up.
Okay, clear
more
it up a little
careful
bit,
with our
okay.
language, rather than just try to wing it tonight.
Is there any other discussion? Any questions or comments from the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Just a reminder on that last action, we get notification from the state around the 1st of December, and we have to pay out in December. So that'll happen this calendar year. We got that question from one of our new staff. Well, how soon does that happen? Do I get that pretty soon? No, unfortunately not. We get very little time to turn it around and pay it out. So these next two items, we've seen before, the city is looking to take slivers of property for projects that they're working on. The first, Madam President, I would ask for board approval to authorize the administration to transfer vacant property near the Monger School. This relates to an overpass that the city is working on for Highway. And if there are questions about, how big and those kind of things, Mr. Gianese is right here to speak to those if you have questions. But with that, I would ask for a motion to approve this.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second. Okay.
Is there, before you ask, Tony, can you just provide some context of this so that everybody has the same understanding about what this means?
Yep, absolutely. So at Monger, at the intersection of Monger and Hively, we currently have a very small turning radius the way that it exists because of the new overpass, which will start basically right in front of our school. It doesn't actually come down. So you have to think about ground level that goes up in the air to go over. Because of where that lands, they need to get a little portion of our property. It's roughly 10 feet from the existing corner in. It will not get to the sign. And then it actually, it pies down, it triangles down on each side. And that allows them to put a bigger turning radius because they have to offset that road just slightly. So that's why the request for the roadway, for the variance, for that, the additional roadway.
Tony, what's the schedule for that project? Isn't it, it's a couple years away, right?
It is. It's been a very interesting schedule. Originally, it came out in 21, and they were going to be gung ho and go like crazy. But now they're looking at last quarter of 24 or first quarter of 24 or 25 before they refer to it as letting the project. In our world, it's bidding the project. It's the same thing. That's just what the terminology they use in road work.
So if this would, just say it like didn't work out, and we are giving them that piece of property, does that come back to us in the event that something doesn't work out the way that they thought?
Well, they are paying us.
Oh.
So
So
they
that was
assess,
my second
they
question.
assess a
Are we
value.
making money out of
each
this?
time that this happens, like when they took the little corner
Correct.
at North Side,
Yes.
they assess a value and then they write the school district a check for that little sliver of property.
Okay, so they're gonna write us
So
the check,
it
and if
becomes
they make a mistake and this doesn't really work out the way that they wanted, it's theirs, but we've still made our money off by it.
Right.
Okay,
And they could always approach us about purchasing it back.
but we've moved on.
Right, we've moved on.
And because of where it sits, there really isn't any use for us. It just simply is a little bit of a buffer.
Tony, given the nature of the project, in your opinion, will this enhance the safety of the students at Monger? Or are there any negative safety impacts, or is it safety neutral?
When it's done, in 2.5 to 3 years, it will definitely enhance the safety, in my opinion. However, it is going to be a arduous process to get there because they will be affecting our students that walk from the south side of Hively, our buses that come from the east side of Main Street. So it's going to take
You're
some.
talking about during construction.
During construction, yeah, sorry, during construction. So it's going to take some work on our part. Mr. Scott and I actually met with representatives from the engineering company. It's been
Quite
almost
some time.
a year ago now, and shared those concerns. So like you have to make sure our students can get to school safely. They're talking about putting in sidewalks, temporary sidewalks to get them there. They understand busing may be affected. We'll still be able to get back in that neighborhood. It'll be off Main Street rather than Hively. So we're actually going to look at a couple of options where we might have to change our routing a little bit. Any construction project of that size and of that nature is certainly going to be difficult to get through. But once it's done, I absolutely do think it'll be a benefit for all the community, for our students
I
especially.
don't remember. Are they in the process of acquiring all the properties that they need?
That is my understanding,
I
but
can't remember how far along they
They
are.
already have it.
They already have it.
They already have it.
They already have hunters,
They've
they already
been
have
having, there's a church right there. People who live in, because I live in that neighborhood, they have had meetings there. And so all of the people who are being bought out, if that's what you want to say, already have their information.
So is this, I'm looking at a Google Earth of this right here. So is the added expanded of the overpass going to be on the south side of Hively?
Yes.
Because our building is fairly tight.
Yes.
to
It starts on right in front of the building at that Hively Munger intersection. It starts and swings down to the south, and it's going to cut across where the laundromat, Hunters, KFC,
Yeah.
across where the 7-Eleven. It's going to cut across that area and kind of make a sweep and then come down in that other neighborhood on the opposite side. There, Mr. Mel, were you able to pass along those drawings? I don't know if they'd be.
I did not,
Okay.
but I think your explanation is pretty helpful.
The only thing that will be left in that four-corner quadrant will be the Hispanic grocery store.
So the sidewalk basically is going to be maintained, to the front of our school. We'll still have that and the street as it is today.
Yes.
Everything else is a bypass. Okay, all right.
It's going to be an interesting intersection there because it's going to be offset just a little, but I think it'll be manageable.
Just read we're going to sell the property to them. They're going to pay us, and if they can't figure out what they're doing to build that, we're cool.
Correct. With board approval, then we will
Okay,
sign the
that's all I wanna
documents
make sure.
that allow us to be paid for the
Transfer.
transaction or
Okay.
transfer.
Is there any questions or comments from the audience? Any other discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And the second final one for this evening, this has nothing to do with the cell phone tower. We've had some calls, I think, like that. Same situation. The city wants to do some work on the road in front of Pinewood and want to take a few feet from the edge of the road back so that they can put utilities.
Yes.
And so, Madam President, I would ask for board approval to grant us authorization and allow us to transfer the vacant property.
Where is that?
Is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, motion.
I mean,
Second.
now is there any discussion?
Where's that?
It is on the north side of Bristol Street, all along our property frontage on Bristol Street at Pinewood. So extending from our east property line all the way to the west, so basically across from the library, Walker Park, in that area. So the current right-of-way actually sits right on the curb line, which who knows why they did that way years ago, but that is certainly not conducive for their project. So what they're asking to do is purchase approximately 14 feet from east to west from the curb line in. And in that area, I asked them, I wanted to make sure I got this correct. They are going to provide a new sidewalk. There'll be storm sewer, utility relocations, and road signs. So that also will be purchased, given board approval. We sign the document, they pay us for that land. It permanently becomes part of the city's property in the sense of a right-of-way. One of the questions I asked, just because I thought I would, I said, so the city's gonna maintain the sidewalk? No, sir. That is no, sir. But I tried. But that's essentially what that's for.
Does this impact the entrance and the exit of the parking lot in front of the school in any way?
This is one where when the project's done, it will not. You know, during construction, we certainly will see something, and we've been talking with them about that as well. I will tell you, their original design called for a raised median down the middle of Bristol Street. And so we would have to turn right out of both entrance exits. And fortunately, they talked with Mrs. Goins and myself and Bill Dremel, and we said, no, we need that to be left-hand, right-hand. And so they've removed the median, and so we will have that ability to make those turns, which we desperately need.
Okay, so just to go back over this one again, we are agreeing to give them that property. They are paying us for it, and it is documented that they are going to replace the sidewalks.
Yes.
Okay.
That they're gonna have sidewalks. We don't have sidewalks.
Oh, we don't have
No,
sidewalks.
we actually,
Yeah,
we do have
Yeah.
a sidewalk.
Sidewalks.
Yep. But with the work, they're gonna go ahead
Just,
and
there's
replace
no
it.
sidewalk from the end of the school across the Ruby, land.
Right,
That's where there's no
to
sidewalk.
G-Wood.
There's a story about that sidewalk, but I'll hold that for another time.
Is there any other discussion? Is there any questions or comments from the audience? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
So we have, wow, this was a short meeting. Dora, do we have any? We're getting here.
We are.
No, no, okay. Mr. Mile, what do you have?
I have several items for the board this evening. But first, I'd like to introduce to the board the Indiana Department of Education Collaborative Educator of the Year, Mr. Dan Walsh. And Dan, if you would step up. We just happen to have. So, according to the Indiana Department of Education, this award recognizes an individual with over 3 years of experience who maximizes support for students through strategic collaboration with various partners.
This individual engages in identifying needs and expanding students' access to future opportunities through the implementation of relevant partnerships. So Dan, tell us what it's really about.
Well, my wife would say that I make an ass out of myself. So people want to help, and it's just a matter of identifying different organizations that are willing to help our students. For starters, it actually refers to the summer STEM camp. We've grown that over the last 3 years, and it's a collaboration of Civil Air Patrol, use of their curriculum, and the school corporation, and teachers here in the school corporation turning to make great opportunities for our students in the summer. I mean, that's one event that this alludes to. Another is my opportunities with the University of Notre Dame in the summer to take students to do research, and it's actually paid research with undergraduate credit at the University of Notre Dame. So that's another opportunity leveraging. And then the third has been, in the last 3 years, I identified an organization called Engineering Tomorrow. There's a 503c out of Virginia who provide free STEM labs to our students. They're in all 52 states, and they've actually asked me to come on as an engineer with them. So it's been a great opportunity to be identified. And then the last thing would be being scooped up by Ivy Tech, give opportunity to our dual credit students. So I just like doing a lot of things and juggling things, and that's kind of the nature of the beast, having been a naval officer, and just keep giving me as much as you possibly can and bringing fire hose.
So before you wrap up, just give us a little brief overview of the upcoming solar eclipse stuff.
Well, we have an opportunity to educate and teach our students to be safe, and teach them about science. So there are 2 solar eclipses coming up, and we won't see these for another 30 years. We have a 50% on Saturday, October 14th. So we're going to start looking to do some general education. I think I'm scheduled to meet with the principals on the 4th of October to provide them some resources. And then on April 8th, we have another solar eclipse, which happens to be the first day back from spring break. That one happens during the school day for the middle schoolers and the high schoolers. So this is a great opportunity to educate our students about what the solar eclipse is, a full-scale event, and keep them safe, and then teach them what about our own star and what its impact on our population is, and what this type of event has to offer them. And they may never see it in their lifetime either. So we're just trying to leverage those opportunities to educate and keep our students safe. In that regard, approached superintendent because I had been selected as a solar eclipse ambassador by NASA and the Solar Science Institute. They've put together about 3,000 of us.
It never ends.
There's about 3,000 of us nationwide, so I guess that would be another thing that fits in here. They've provided some resources and information and kits that I'll push down to the principals and the teachers. But they've also provided some free solar glasses to do an event at night for the parents, the students, and some of the local community as well. So I did this at Adams in 2017. We had about 700 people show up. So I expect the same. So we'll engage our students to participate along with and help out with the community and educate the community as well. People like to show up when they get free things.
Sure did.
Very good. Dan, thank you so much for all that you do for our students and for the excellent way that you represent ECS. I'm glad you have more than 3 years in so you can qualify for these amazing honors.
Well, this has been a breath of fresh air these last 3 years at Elkhart. I had worked for Brand X elsewhere, and these 3 years have been awesome opportunities that I've been given things to do that I did not have the opportunity to do at other places. So this has been really my pleasure doing this. And just keep throwing me a bone, and so. But the biggie check, I got this along with about 30 others of us, and they gave about $5 million out to schools on Friday night. I'm trying to figure out how to fit this into the deposit slot, which is but I think the best part of it was, quite honestly, the people that recognized the teachers that night. And one in particular happened to be the manager of the hotel I was staying at. I called to make a reservation, and she asked why I was coming down. And I said, well, I'm coming down for an education conference for an award. She goes, well, my parents were educators. Let me see what I can do for you. She said, what discounts do you have? I said, well, we got ARP, we've got AAA, and I've got a military discount. She comes back, it was a $275 a night room. She comes back with a $150 room discount. And then I showed up with my wife on Friday night. And she reaches in the drawer and she pulls out a key and she hands it to me and she goes, nobody's in this room. My wife, we didn't know what it was. We walk into the room and it's bigger than this room. We got the presidential suite.
Oh, awesome.
So, there are people out there that appreciate educators, and they're willing to bend over backwards for them. So, when we were leaving, she said, "Did you have a good time?" And I said, "Yeah, we had a great time. The only regret we have is not being able to stay longer in that room."
Hey, Dan, can you hold that check up again? I want to get
It's already in cash, by the way.
for my marketing program here. I think you would be a valuable spokesperson.
Yep.
While he's
Got it.
toying around with his
Thank you.
camera. We've had the privilege of knowing Mr. Walsh for like years through hockey, and it is true. Like when you go to talk to him, first of all, grace and humility are two wonderful characteristics of him. But you leave him and you're like, you did that also, and that happened too, and he's just so. It just flows so naturally. But I think you need to know how your peers think of you, and they have the best of things to say about you and what you've done. And just hearing the teachers that work with you through your summer program, it is, and the plane ride. I mean, it's just amazing. So you do great things for our students, and he has energy that never ends. I mean, it's a fact. He has energy that does not end. And
we actually turned 38 teachers into aerospace educators this summer. They are now Civil Air Patrol aerospace educators and have access to free STEM kits. And then the end of October, we're trying to get them a flight on a Cessna 172, which is part of the aerospace educator program. So last year we had 8, and they got flights. Now we've expanded the program to 38 people. So it's really a great opportunity for them to, see STEM from the sky.
And when you hear him speak, it's always we and the opportunity for them. And that's what is so great about your grace and humility, and how super blessed we are to have you and to know you as a peer and a friend. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a joy this summer on the bus. We had the summer STEM camp, and I spent most of it at the airport giving tours to kids. And you probably saw some of the videos on Facebook, but they got a tour of an airplane. They all got a chance to sit in the airplane and control the airplane while it was on the ground. And then they got a tower tour, and then we took the bus on the runway and we made it fly. So they all had to stick their hands out the windows, and we got up to speed, and there was a competition to see which class got the bus highest off the ground. And I think that was, for them, I think that was the best part, because they ran back and they started talking to their peers about, well, we got it 6.5 inches and you only got it 6 off the ground. And the teachers around me were just amazed at what was happening, because they were like, I don't believe this is coming out of this.
Several years ago, there was a thought made that we might be able to do ground school for our students. Do you know anything about that, or had heard anything about that?
I personally helped set up the South Bend Community School Corporation, Brand X's Intro to Flight program. Sure. They have a CTE program out at the airport. So I think they have 30 students in that program every year that get a chance to get the ground school, and then they get flight time, etc. We are prime because they have issues with transportation out to the airport there because of the distance from the school corporation and from the schools. I think because of the reach that we have out here, and we're in the backyard of the airport, this is a perfect opportunity. You just go up Bristol Street and into the back there on Edwardsburg, right into the flight center, and you're 5 minutes away.
As a part of that, also, how about the A&P type of training and instruction?
Yes, sir. The program we set up was a three-pronged program. They got the basic ground school, but they could go 3 ways: maintenance, operations, or flight. When you look at an airport, 80% of the people at an airport support the air crews. Only 20% of the people actually have the skills, or the piloting skills, or air crew skills. So there are so many other opportunities for careers that exist at an airport other than just piloting and air crews. And students need to realize that those opportunities exist, and that career development program does that for them. They get a chance to explore the 3 facets of it. And my background in aviation was in the back of the aircraft and not in the front. And so, operations was paramount to me, and that's where I got my second bachelor's degree from Embry-Riddle, was in operations. So there are so many other opportunities that students can have in careers in aviation that are not related to just flying an airplane. Absolutely. The understanding of that is key and critical, and which is why we're now teaching in an aerospace engineering class in the PLPW this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. If I could, Brandon Eakins, would you just step up to the microphone just real quickly? I had put some information in the packet about Career Center construction and some work that we're wanting to do. This is not an agenda item, and it's something that the board will be actually holding a public hearing on later. But while Brandon's in the audience, I wanted to make sure that if you had any questions, quick questions for him tonight, that we'd have an opportunity to ask those. And they may not.
No, I just want to say, I sent a bunch of questions ahead of time, so, and Mark forwarded us your answers, so thank you very much. I really appreciate your detailed explanation. It was helpful to understand kind of all the moving parts. I know we've had conversations about this as a board and other meetings about it. You've presented at work sessions about the Career Center and the programs, and some of the limitations we have and the wait lists we also have. So I'm glad to see that we're exploring our options and hopefully moving things around to be able to accommodate more kids and more programming.
We are too.
So I think as this moves, and we get more involved in it, I may have more questions.
Sure.
But I appreciate the questions that you had asked, or that you had answered that I had.
Anything else for Brandon?
Thank you, sir.
It's the easiest one yet. Thank you.
Right along, yeah.
The last item is to remind the board that we will have a public work session at 6 o'clock in the evening on September 26th, followed by a regular board meeting at 7.
Is there anything from the board? Nobody? Okay, I would like to give the public an update about the superintendent search. We have reopened the superintendent search. We understand the importance of this position to the future of our schools, and all of the trustees are committed to working together to identify and hire the best candidate to lead and serve our students, staff, and community. This is not easy work, and as we move through this process, we anticipate having some very tough conversations. As we are all passionate about our schools and our community, we only want the best for our staff and students. The ideal candidate for the Elkhart Community Schools will have a strong record of accomplishments as an instructional leader, improving in student achievement with outstanding communication skills, a collaborative leadership style, and an ability to engage with all stakeholders to improve student learning. Applications are being accepted until October 22nd by BWP and Associates, a national firm that specializes in assisting public school districts find new leadership. The board anticipates naming the next superintendent by January 1st, 2024, with the new superintendent beginning work no later than July 1st, 2024. For additional information about the superintendent search, please visit our website. Thank you. If there's nothing else, we can adjourn.